Hello again people, it's Hector Jenkins again with Python for Beginners. We're now on episode 6 and here we're going to be writing our programs in a text editor for the first time. Now I will still be running programs from a terminal and that is my recommendation for what it's worth. I will show an alternative though, because I know some people want to set their computer on fire rather than use the terminal. Right, so here are the objectives. Now, our choice of text editor, like our views on Brexit, is something that can elicit a strong response. Personally, I don't have a huge favourite. I like to use different ones at different times. In this course I will mainly be using Sublime Text, I think, although I may change my mind on that. But you can really use anything you want. That's one of the points I want to drive home. Now, Sublime Text can be downloaded from sublimetext.com. Technically it's not free. You can certainly download it and use all the features without payment, but periodically you'll see a prompt inviting you to pay for the full program. It's what's known as nagware. You have a huge number of other options if you don't want to go down the Sublime Text road. For example, there's Atom from atom.io, or Visual Studio Code, which is also becoming extremely popular. For Python specifically, there's something called PyCharm, which I like as well. So everything I've mentioned there is completely free. Now, what I'm going to actually do for our very first program from an editor, I'm going to use Notepad, which is the simplest option really available on Windows here. And I'm going to write perhaps the simplest possible Python program, certainly one of them. Now, what you want to do if you've written a program is save your file, so Control S, or come up and click File and choose Save. It'll be Command S on a Mac, of course. Now, two things to be aware of. Number one, where are you saving the file? I'm saving this on the desktop, and the file extension you want to use for Python programs is .py. Right, so I've saved hello.py on my desktop. So I'm going to go back and use just the bog standard command prompt just for this video. Right, now, in general, to run a program from any terminal, you need to make sure the terminal is pointing to the same location as the program you want to run. Now in this case it isn't, but I'm just going to try running the program in any case here. So to run a Python program, you type Python, it'll be Python 3 on a Mac, and then you follow that up just by the name of the file. So as expected here, it can't find the file. So there is a command. Now I don't want to be teaching the terminal in detail in this course, but obviously you need to know a couple of things if you want to run your programs. Now the command cd stands for change directory. Luckily works on both Windows and Mac, and as the name suggests, it changes the location of where the terminal points to. Now in this case, we can change to the desktop. Now what I did there was something called tab completion. I just typed D for desktop and hit tab, and it completed the rest for me. So that's something that can save you a bit of time. The auto-completion can obviously only function if there's no ambiguity, if you type enough to resolve the file path to one and only one destination. Right, so we're now on the desktop, so let me use the up arrow to recall Python hello.py. So we've run the program there. Now there's no output, as expected. I just did this to drive home the point that in the Python shell, it's different. If we type 2 + 2 it will give us the output 4, but if we are actually running a program, we won't get anything without using our good old friend, the print function. So I've saved that file again, come back here and run the program, and we do indeed get 4. Now I just need to mention a couple of other things about change directory. You can't just teleport anywhere within the file structure. One other thing I'll show to demonstrate that is cd space and then 2 dots. What that does is takes you up to the parent directory. So I was in users me desktop, it's now just users me. So let me go up one more layer and it's just C user. So now if I try and change to desktop, it won't be able to find it. So what we have to do is go one step at a time. So we can do me / desktop. Now that's another crucial difference. / on Windows, / on Mac. So if you do get your backslashes and / confused, don't worry, you're certainly not the only one. / on the keyboard is normally next to the Z for Zulu, and the / is normally sharing the same key as the question mark. Right, okay, so we now have our directory pointing back to the desktop. Now I think that's going to do it actually for Notepad, so let me go into Sublime Text, and I'm going to end this video by showing a couple of things. Now one thing I'm going to show you is just a little extra thing about the print function. Now by default, each print function statement will end with a new line character. So I've already saved this file as example.py, so let me just run it. And you see that there. What we can do is pass another parameter to the print function. Now we need to do a comma, and then we can do end equals. So by default the end will be a \n for new line, remember our escape character, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a space there, and we want to do this for the second line here as well. We don't need to do it for the last line. So let's save that and run it. And we see we get our output there on the same line. So I'm sure not too much time will pass before that comes in very useful for you. Now the other thing I'm going to show is just an alternative to having to use the terminal, because I know some people are very resistant to going anywhere near it, but we won't get into the weeds on arguments for and against on this video. Let me just show you a little trick that we can do. So if we go to our desktop here, you can actually just run the program. So I've got it there, example.py. You just double click on it. Now the program did run there, it did happen rather quickly, so if you blinked, or even if you didn't blink, you would have missed it there. But what you can do, don't worry too much about what's going on, but just copy this as the last line of any programs you write for the moment. Now we're actually going to be teaching this input function in the next video anyway, I think, so it's to do with getting user input normally. But what we can do here, I'm going to do a \n for a new line first of all, and I'll just type press enter to end the program. So that's something you can do. Right, so let's save that, and now if we come back out and double click on example.py again, you see we get the output and it's waiting for us to press technically, well actually we do have to press enter to end the program. So there we go. Right, so I think that's quite a lot of ground covered. It looks like it's my first video that's gone over 10 minutes. Right, so objectives. We talked about text editors, we did that, and we certainly showed you an alternative. I should just mention another alternative would be to use the built-in idle kind of setup. Now, I've nothing against it, but for some reason I just tend not to use it. Maybe just not for me, one of these things. But if you're comfortable using that, I've certainly watched a lot of tutorials with people using it, and you can certainly get reasonably far in Python by using that. So if that's what you want to do, absolutely fine. Like I say, that's one of the main points I'd like you to take away from this video. You can really use Python on just about any setup. It's one of the advantages of it. Okay, I'll stop rambling now. So just thanks again for joining me, and it would be an honour if you were able to tune in for episode 7. Thanks a lot. Bye bye now.